All right, 2 Samuel chapter 19 tonight. 2 Samuel 19. We're going to look at two maps to begin with. And we're only going to get to one chapter tonight. It's a lengthy chapter, 43 verses. All right, so we could blow this up in a little bit, but I want to show you the broad view here. You got the Sea of Galilee, you got the Dead Sea, and of course you got the Jordan River. What we discussed last week was here's Jerusalem, and David had fled Absalom, and then Absalom finds out and chases him up. David, meanwhile, makes it to Mahanaim, but they're having a battle in this area in the forest here, and many people, including Absalom, dies in this area right here. David then they send word to David, two different runners come back to Mahanaim and let David know, and we left the chapter with him grieving over the death of his son. So let's go to the next one if you would. All right. So again, David's here, Mahanaim, so we can zoom in really to this area right here. Thank you. So David is now going to return from Mahanaim and come back to Jerusalem to take control and leadership once again of the nation. As he's coming this side, on the east side, the old man Barzillai, who's 80 years old, is accompanying him. And before he crosses over the Jordan River to Gilgal, there's going to be a couple of people meeting him. There's going to be a guy by the name of Shimei. Remember the guy who threw stones at him and cursed at him and such? He's going to meet David and basically say, oops, my bad. Then Mephibosheth, the crippled boy, who's the son of Jonathan, he's going to come and meet David. Remember when David was originally leaving Jerusalem, my mind went blank. Ziba, Mephibosheth's servant, lied to David and said, Mephibosheth is not here because, he wants you gone and he wants his family's name restored. And so he lied to him. So Mephibosheth's coming, Shimei's coming, and then the people of Judah, David's from the south, are going to meet David here. And it's going to be a big to-do to escort the king back over. So that's really what's going to happen in this chapter. So Roman number 1, the tears of David. Letter A, David's anguish. I want you to notice, I'm going to read the first 4 verses here. Notice the word weepeth, mourneth, mourning, grieved, and cried. It's certainly an emotional time for David as he loses his son, Absalom. Even though Absalom was rebellious, a father or a parent's always going to love their child. Verse 1, it was told Joab, behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. The victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. The people gat them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee into battle. All that means is they want to rejoice. Hey, we won. But then they feel bad about rejoicing when the king is mourning. It's kind of like if you're at a funeral home and you start laughing at somebody, you're like, oh, may not be appropriate. That's all it means. So they're kind of sneaking in. Verse 4, but the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, oh, my son, Absalom. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son. So we see David's anguish, and then letter B, Joab's anger. Joab's anger. Now let me say something that's going to sound black and white and unsympathetic. But from Joab's perspective, David is a leader, and he needs to get going. He doesn't have time to mourn, to weep, because everyone else needs leadership. And so let me make a statement here. Loss can cause us sometimes to lose perspective because we're only focusing on the pain. And I understand losing a loved one. Here's a child. but loss can cause us to lose perspective. Verse number 5, and Joab came into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which this day have saved thy life, and the lives of thy sons and thy daughters, and the lives of thy wives, and the lives of thy concubines, in that thou lovest thine enemies, and hatest thy friends. Now, obviously, that's an exaggeration, but Joab's mad and making a point. For thou hast declared this day, thou regardest neither princes nor servants, for this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived, and all we had died this day, that it had pleased thee well. Obviously, that's not true, but based upon David's action and reaction, Joab's making a statement. Now therefore arise, go forth, and speak comfortably unto thy servants, for I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night. And that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. Have you ever been at a crossroads where you know that this is such a pivotal decision that if you make the wrong decision, it's literally going to send you this way? There's been a couple of times in my life when that's happened, and this was very crucial. And Joab was trying to kick David in the pants and say, hey, you need to, as a leader, you're going to lose the country here. I get that you're mourning, but you're a leader. Let's do something about it. So we see the tears of David. Number 2, the travels of David. This actually takes us through the rest of the chapter. And I forgot to mark which notes you have on yours, but I'm just going to go through mine. And if you need to add extra notes to the side, because I forget which ones I have and you have. But letter A is the resolution. Number 1, underneath that, the argument. Now, much like, and I'm actually glad that was brought up about Josh's job, although I knew that was going on in the government, but I didn't connect the dots with you. I don't know why I didn't. So I'm glad that was brought up. But right now in our nation, there's such a division of opinions of what should be done with the economy. Of, what's so hard about sending out an email and replying with 5 bullets? I mean, we do expect employees to work. That's one perspective. That's my perspective. But the other one is like, well, who does he think he is to tell us, well, we report some other way, So there's a lot of debate going on and all this stuff. Well, now that Absalom's dead, David's coming back, they're going to be arguing, should we bring him back? How come you're not involved? And, how come he fled? They're just arguing. Look at verse number 8. Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told unto all the people, saying, Behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent. And all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, The king saved us out of the hand of our enemies. He delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled out of the land for Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now therefore, why speak ye not a word of bringing the king back? So there's this strife, like, I want to bring him back. How come you're not wanting to bring him back? Well, he fled. Good riddance. So there's this argument going on. Number 2, the appeal. David's now going to send word to the people of south of Judah and say, hey guys, I'm from your part. Are you going to welcome me back? Verse number 11, and King David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, Speak unto the elders of Judah, saying, Why are ye the last to bring the king back to his house? Seeing the speech of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house. Ye are my brethren, ye are my bones, my flesh. Wherefore then ye are the last to bring back the king. Twice he asked that question. Why are you the last? Why are you the last? You should be the first. So he makes appeal. There's the argument, the appeal. The number 3, the appointment. Now, do you remember last week we talked about how Absalom, David has Joab as his right-hand man. Absalom appointed Amasa, his cousin. Well, now that Absalom's dead, what happens to this position? Amasa was the general, the leader. Well, David is going to do a very political and unifying move. I think it's wise, but you can debate this because later on in chapter 20, Amasa does some things that are kind of shaky. But nevertheless, David's heart was, let's unify the nation. So what he does is he chooses someone from the other side, Amasa to be in a leadership position. He says, I need you as a cabinet member. Be much like a president who is, Republican, to choose an independent or a Democrat even to serve in a leadership position, say, hey, I need to unify the party. That's what David's going to do here. He's appoint Amasa. Look at verse 13. And say ye to Amasa, art not thou of my bone and of my flesh? God do so to me, and more also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room of Joab. Joab's the guy that just killed his son. So David's like, hey, I'm going to get rid of Joab and put Amasa in here, and that will kill two birds with one stone. Joab's kind of been an iffy guy off and on. I don't want to get Joab a bad name because he has done some good things, but constantly he's causing David strife or stress. And so he wants to appoint Amasa. So letter A was the resolution. Letter B is the return. Let's look at the story between David and Shimei. That's the guy who cussed at David and cursed God and threw stones at him. But notice Shimei's fear. Verse 16, and Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite. Just a minute, I didn't read verse 15. Verse 15, so the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan. And Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite, which was of Bahurim, hastened and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there was 1,000 men of Benjamin with him. And Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants with him, they went over Jordan before the king. There went out a ferry boat to carry over the king's household and to do what he thought good. Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king, and he was come over Jordan. Why would he fall down before the king? Yeah, repentance, kind of like, I'm so sorry, man. I had it wrong. Verse 19, and said unto the king, let not my Lord impute iniquity unto me, neither do thou remember that which thy servant did perversely the day that my Lord, the king, went out of Jerusalem. And the king should take it to his heart. For thy servant doth know that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I am come to the first this day of all the house of Joseph to go down to meet my Lord the king. He says, I'm first in line. I want to take care of this right away. So we see not only Shimei's fear, but we see David's forgiveness. Verse 21, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? Now, as Abishai, time and time again, he wanted to attack Saul. He wanted to attack Shimei before. Anytime somebody comes against David, he's against them. And now he doesn't want peace, doesn't know David's heart. David said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? In other words, that's his sister's son, my nephews. That ye should do this day be adversaries unto me. Shall there any man be put to death this day in Israel? For do not I know that I am this day king over Israel? Therefore the king said unto Shimei, thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. So give it up to David, because many of us had somebody come out when we were being chased out of town, and somebody cussing at us, throwing stones. And then we have one of our men say, hey, can I go kill him? I think most of us would say, yeah, go for it, man. And then when all this is over, when he's coming back over the Jordan River, Shimei's begging for mercy. I've seen church members, say, no, off with his head. You had your chance. You blew it. But praise the Lord that this guy, David, is full of forgiveness. So let's move on. That was David and Shimei. Now David and Mephibosheth. This is the story where the crippled boy is going to come to David and say, hey, Ziba lied about me. I'm not betraying you. Verse 24, and Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day that the king departed of the day he came again to peace. Those are just signs of grief and mourning. And it came to pass, when he was come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said unto him, wherefore wentest not thou with me, Mephibosheth? Why didn't you join me before? And he answered, My lord, O king, my servant deceived me, talking about Ziba. For thy servant said, I will saddle me an ass, that I may ride thereon and go to the king, because thy servant is lame. In other words, Ziba pretended to be doing a favor for Mephibosheth, but that wasn't the case. And he slandered thy servant unto my lord the king, but my lord the king is as an angel of God. Do therefore what is good in mine eyes. I love the phrase, the Apostle Paul did this as well. Whenever you're before somebody that's going to make a decision against you or for you, you're very gracious to them. And that's what he did. Mephibosheth, my lord the king, you're an angel, man. You're an angel. Do what's best for you. What you think is right. And then verse number 28, For all my father's house were but dead men before my lord the king, yet didst thou not set thy servant among them that did eat at thine own table. What right therefore have I yet to cry any more unto the king? The king said unto him, Why speakest thou any more of thy matters? What David's basically saying is, I've heard enough. This whole strife business going on between you and Ziba, he said, she said, that kind of thing. He says, I have said, thou and Ziba divide the land. You guys deal with it. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, Yea, let him take all, for as much as my lord the king has come again in peace unto his own house. And Mephibosheth just made it clear, I'm not about the property and all the wealth and stuff. I just want you to know I'm with you. Ziba had lied before, but that wasn't the case. I'm not here to get an inheritance. I'm here just to support you. All right, so that's David and Shimei, David and Mephibosheth, now David and Barzillai. Those of you that are older, you would appreciate this story right here. Barzillai is basically, David's going to offer him a job. Barzillai is going to say, look, thanks, but no thanks. I'm old. I want to die at home. I don't want to go to the big city. It's too much hustle and bustle for me, too much noise going on. I can't really think straight when I'm there. I don't hear everything anyway. So he's going to make some statements like this, and then he's going to say, no. However, if you want to be kind to me, show kindness to my son. So let's read on. Verse 31. And Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rajalim and went over Jordan with the king to conduct him over Jordan. Now Barzillai was a very aged man, even 80 years old. That's 80. He had provided the king of sustenance while he lay at Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. Now, the word great man doesn't mean he's obese. All it means he's very wealthy. He was able to help David out. Verse 33, And the king said unto Barzillai, Come thou over with me, and I will feed thee with me in Jerusalem. We see another quality of David, constantly looking out for the benefit of others. Barzillai said unto the king, How long have I to live, that I should go up with the king unto Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old, and can I discern between good and evil? And can thy servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Can I hear any more the voice of singing men and singing women? Wherefore then should thy servant be yet a burden unto my lord the king? He says, if I go over there, you're just going to be constantly caring for me. I don't want to be a burden to you. I'd rather die at home. Verse 36, Thy servant will go a little way over Jordan with the king. Why should the king recompense it with me such a reward? Let thy servant, I pray thee, turn back again. This is Barzillai still talking. That I may die in mine own city and be buried in the grave of my father and of my mother. But behold, thy servant Chimham, let him go over with my lord the king, and do to him what shall seem good unto thee. Now, by the way, according to Jeremiah chapter 41, David takes him across and gives him a land that's near Bethlehem. Verse 38, The king answered, Chimham shall go over with me, and I will do to him that which shall seem good unto thee. Whatsoever thou shalt require me, that will I do for thee. And then verse 39, And all the people went over Jordan. And when the king was come over, the king kissed Barzillai, blessed him, and returned unto his own place. Now I'm going to read the last 4 verses here. But what happens here is, I think, very sad. One of the saddest things in the last several chapters, I think, including the death of the son, even though that's terrible. But as far as a position and unity's sake, this is very sad. Have you ever talked to some people and they're at a critical point, and you would hope that they would have unity. You would hope that they would reconcile, that they would bring peace. And then there's some words said, and you're like, oh no, don't go that way. And then here's another response, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And where it could have been unified in peace, it's now, watch this. Then the king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah conducted the king, and also half the people of Israel. All right, so the people of Judah are coming, but only half the people of Israel, the northern tribes. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said unto the king, why have our brethren, the men of Judah, stolen thee away, have brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over Jordan? Now, it would seem that way. They're making an accusation, and it seemed like Judah has stolen David, because David's coming across and Judah was there. But they're making this accusation, verse 42, and all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, well, because the king is near of kin to us. Wherefore then be ye angry for this matter? Have we eaten at all of the king's cost, or hath he given us any gift? He didn't bribe us. He didn't incentivize us. He didn't do any of that stuff. We're here. You had an opportunity to be here. What's your beef? Verse 43, and the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, we have 10 parts in the king. We have also more right in David than ye. Remember, there's 12 tribes of Israel. The northern part, Israel, they have 10 tribes. There's 2 down south. So they said, we outnumber you. We're bigger than you. We're better than you, you know. And so they're strutting their stuff. Why then did ye despise us or think so little of us, that our advice should not be first had in bringing back our king? Now watch this phrase. And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. And I think that's very sad. What happens in chapter 20 is a spinoff of that. Had there been unity here, chapter 20 would be quite different. But because of the buildup of strife, the argument, the accusations, fiercer words, it's a prime situation for division. And that's sad. May God help us in all of our relationships to unify and make peace. And praise the Lord for the relationships that we have. Brother Carl, could you dismiss us in prayer tonight, please?